Chaitanya Kabir. Well, I was born near Seattle, and then got the blessing of wandering overseas quite a bit in my high school days and university days. And that took me through lots of transformations and ended up teaching music of India here in Boulder.
And you're married?
Married to Habiba, who some of you will have seen or will see in this series of portraits.
And family is in Seattle or was in Seattle?
Family is mostly scattered east from there, but some out in that area, but mostly out in Massachusetts and Washington, D.C.
Why don't you tell me about what religious or spiritual tradition you grew up in?
Okay.
And how did you come to where you are today?
Well, it's interesting. I was speaking to my mother this morning, and I was just thanking her that she kept us from having to have any load of fire and brimstone. Just, but if I were to describe the tradition, I would say something like, atheist or born-again atheist. There wasn't any particular religious focus in the family, but that was a certain clearing for me then. That there wasn't any load of things to be released, and so when I got really interested in Indian music and started really studying it, after a while, just singing these amazing songs to the various Indian deities, it was like, oh, hey, I can participate in this instead of just being a music student of it. It was like the door was opened by the lack of spiritual tradition. So,
tell me, you said you had many years of wanderings. Mm-hmm. So tell me how those started.
Well,
where did you wander first?
Beirut, Lebanon, and that was long before there were wars through there. So I had a wonderful freshman year at the American University of Beirut, and at the beginning of that year, I was sure I was going to do a PhD in physics, and by the end of that year, I was sure I wasn't going to study science at all, but I didn't know what I was going to do, and over the next year, I discovered music of India, and later spent a long time in India.
So you went from Lebanon to India?
I came back to the States and did a bachelor's degree, and then started a master's in ethnomusicology in Hawaii. And then to do my field work for that, I was preparing to go to India.
So tell me about that time in India.
Okay. First of all, instead of having a short field research, I had the blessing of the Army making me 1A, or the draft board making me 1A, and attempting to send me off to Vietnam. And I said, I think I'll apply for conscientious objector status. I didn't know much about Vietnam, but I knew those people were my brothers. And I knew I wasn't supposed to kill my brothers, so I eventually got through that procedure with the conscientious objector and found some work eventually in India. So then instead of being a few months, I was there almost 3 years. So I was working in a village project near the southern tip of India, studying some flute with a local flute teacher. And somebody else heard some of our lessons and realized that this was kind of a mismatch. And he went down to the nearby city, the capital city, Trivandrum, and found a wonderful flute teacher down there. So I went down and met him, and that was like an explosion in the music. It was like I'd been studying about it and studied a little bit of it here and there at university, but then that was the moment when there was like an initiation, and I started practicing hours every day. And that continued through the rest of that time. Towards the end of it, I had been introduced to Osho, also known as Rajneesh, and I was initiated by him and given the name Kabir. And so I came back with all those treasures and worked on completing my master's degree in Hawaii.
How did you come to Sufism?
through my beloved Habiba. The Kabir already can be a Sufi name. The Hindus totally claim Kabir, and the Sufis also say, yeah, he's one of ours. He's not part of a Sufi order or anything, but his understanding of the divine certainly fits very well with the Sufis. So,
tell me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just to give you a little elaboration on that, it's like when I met Habiba, it was like falling in love with her and then seeing the path that she was in, and that's a path of love. But it was through my ripening into the path of love in the first place that made that such a clear, simple choice. Just to be with her and to move into with her follow the path of Sufism. Because like when I was in Beirut for the first time in my life, I saw devotion. I had so many beautiful Muslim brothers, friends. My roommate was from Saudi Arabia. My best friend was from Morocco. There were people from all over the Islamic world there, 50 different countries. And I just saw their devotion, their commitment, and that was really sweet for me to be a part of that. Not that I was stepping into it myself. I put a Quran on my shelf, but I couldn't even read it. And so then when I got into Indian music, then I could see two amazing dimensions of devotion there. One of the kirtans and chanting, just the simple repetition of God's names. That's such an exquisite, simple path. But I was immersing myself in the classical music, and the classical music is about the perfection of sound and the divinity of sound, and that's like a whole nother devotion. So those two dimensions just were really sweet. And then everywhere around the edges of this, it's a Hindu tradition, but there's Sufis everywhere. There's Sufi shrines all over India, or most of India, and there's healing centers, and there's Sufi musicians that do the same ragas that the Hindu musicians do. In fact, in some ways, they carried it. For a while, the Hindu musicians were pretty well suppressed by the British, and the Muslim Sufi musicians carried it through. So there's this amazing intermixture, but I hadn't really got involved with the Sufi things. But listening to some of the Hindi discourses of Osho, I began to understand his language, and the one day that it just completely opened for me, I just burst into tears. It was so beautiful just to hear this rich language that many, many mystics have spoken.
Do you remember what he said?
He was speaking on a mystic, a lady mystic from Rajasthan, Dayabai, the compassionate one. And he was telling the story of her life, telling the story of her awakening. And in fact, the name of the series is Jagat Taraya Borki, which is the last star of dawn disappeared, and in that disappearance, she awakened. Well, this is also supposed to have been what happened to the Buddha, so it was interesting that this lady has a song that has the story of the Buddha's life in a way. So it was just a very rich thing, and I burst into tears every other Hindi discourse afterwards, because that understanding of the language never left again. I can't really say God or faith. I would have to say my earliest memory of meditation or memory of centering. And one that really strikes me is when I was a kid, we lived on a lake, one of these lakes that's carved out by the glaciers near Seattle, and I was just out rowing at dusk, and I used to go out and row quite a lot at dusk. And then one day I just decided that we had a good old boat with a good straight keel on it, and I would just row and see how long it would keep going. And the boat slowed down, and I slowed down. And I got down, so I was rowing about once a minute. And it was just like I just got more and more. It's just the beautiful dusk and the boat not going much of anywhere, but keeping right on a perfect straight line. And that was kind of my beginning of realizing there was a lot more here. Well, I was having a lot of experiences with the music, but I couldn't make much sense about it. I was really studying Indian music many hours every day. But so then when I was initiated by Osho, I would say is the time when I really, as an adult, took on the path and was given this amazing name, and really began to seriously meditate and be part of a spiritual life, and realize that everything I'd been doing with the music was already that, but I couldn't see it that way until that initiation. Then I was prepared to see it and step into it. I was sitting in a room. There'd been I'd been sitting with Osho every day for a few days. I was sitting in a room, and all those previous days, my mind had been rattling on how I wasn't going to do this initiation. I didn't need to do this because there was kind of like some indirect, nothing direct, but indirect pressure. Wow, here's a chance. Here's an opportunity. Everybody's saying what a great thing this was. And my mind was completely rattling on how I couldn't do this. There's no way. I was too busy doing my music, my advanced degrees, whatever. And as I sat there, he looked at me and said, are you ready to be initiated? And some voice that I'm not quite sure how it came out was, yes. So I went up and got initiated. He gave me the name Chaitanya Kabir, which Kabir is vast. It's one of the 99 names of Allah, Arabic. And then Chaitanya is Sanskrit for consciousness. So together it's vast consciousness. But it also refers to two amazing mystics named Chaitanya, who started the kirtan, dancing in the street, and Kabir, who is a mystic of the oneness.
What is the chant or the part of kirtan that for you is most meaningful? Because there's a specific chant that is, this is yours.
That's hard to say, because I would have to say the one I'm singing is that one, But let's go with a particular chant and a particular raga. The ragas are the melody patterns, and one that I really love is Devi Daya Karama Jai Mata Kali Gari Kali Ma Devi Daya Karama Jai Mata Gauri Kali Ma Devi Daya Karama Jai Mata Gauri Kali Ma. And there's more, but that's the basic. It's basically saying, "Oh, Mother, have compassion on us." And the Gauri is the white or wheaten-colored goddess. Kali is the black goddess. Whichever form she wants to come, we're just off saying, come.
Yeah. Boy, that just...
Yeah. And the raga is Pradeep, which means the ultimate flame, the very ultimate flame, or ultimate source of life, light. I think we might as well start with our Sheikha, who just was here in our house with us for a few days, and with us in the retreat 2 weeks before that. She's, when she was initiated as a Sheikha into as a leader in this order, at that time our other Sheikh Noor, who Habiba spoke of, was the one who was stepping into being the first American Sheikh of the order, and they were initiated at the same time. And she then wasn't leading; she was just going deeper and deeper herself. And so it was like she was being like the moon, receiving this incredible grace that Sheikh Muzaffar from Turkey had brought, and that Sheikh Noor was manifesting and sharing. And then when he passed, he asked her to be the leader of the whole order. And so like we met her soon after that. We hadn't met her before, but we met her soon after that. And it was like this amazing being who had been the moon, slowly coming towards being the sun. And then over the years, we saw this amazing growth and expansion of her becoming that sun. And now we just experienced her that way. So, and it's a whole gift that she's received to hear this. This is an order that's come out of a very patriarchal place. And here she is, a woman who's leading. And she does it just in her own way, and so touching and so heartful. All of this, the whole of this amazing planet, just to go a little bit back to the Divine Mother, we often experience the Divine Mother as one of her names, which is chaos. And we're in a period of amazing chaos right now. We're on the edge of it. And that's the way she teaches. That's the way she works in nature. As so many times, life has been in peril on this planet, and from particular species taking over too much, taking too much of the energy. And that's where we are right now. And this is an opportunity for us. It's an amazing opportunity. The mystics are always talking about, we're always experiencing that there's a possibility for transformation for a lot more of us. And this is that moment. Because of the chaos, because of, things are difficult already and will be more so. And of course I'm not saying it's not painful or something, but I'm saying it's an opportunity to transform. To know that I'm not any different than they are. To know that if there's something I've been blessed to discover or it's been shared by the various teachers and so forth that I've been in contact with, by Habiba also, that everything that's possible here is it was in the reach of all of us. I don't know if I'm answering your questions very well. About me, let's see.
That's perfect.
Yeah, love. I want to share with you a little Urdu couplet. And Urdu is very much inspired by the Persian masters like Rumi and Hafiz. But it's the same language as Hindi, but when you go into the poetry, then it's full of Arabic and Persian words, and Hindi is full, maybe have more Sanskrit words, but it's the same spoken language. And Urdu has many poems like this that are called ghazals, and the couplets of these fit together. This is one from Ghalib, who's the most famous Urdu poet. And it's Ishq par zor nahi hai, ye wo atish hai Ghalib, jo lagaya na lagaye aur bujhaya na bane. Love is that fire, O Ghalib, that we try to ignite it, we can't ignite it. We try to put it out, we can't put it out. And so it's just that letting that love be in our lives is the best we can do. We can't cause it, we can't put it out. And if we really let it burn, there's amazing things that are possible for humans.
Thank you very much.